I walked forward quite a ways and turned right where the rice fields ended. I'd never come here before, so I had no idea where to go. I got lost several times, so I may have taken quite a long way around. Maybe I should have gone back home and gotten my bike first. It would have made everyone else worry if I asked them. So I asked one of the other classmates where Satoko's actual house was. The house was originally her family's, apparently, and not their uncle and his wife's. Their house had been bigger, so they'd taken it for themselves. Right here. Hold on, I gotta make sure that this is closer to me, because I don't want to lean in and have my chair squeak. That would be the most annoying thing in the world. I can't stand that. Anyway, right here, several houses all in the line. Over there? I was visiting Satoko's house, but didn't particularly intend to meet her there. I didn't mean to spy on the enemy, her mean uncle either. Maybe I just wanted to be a little close to her, as her Nini. Pretty words, but I didn't know if they were true. What if Tomita and the others told me that was right? It'd be this house. If what they told me. Oops, my bad. When I recognized it, my feet grew heavy. What did I come here for? My motive for coming here was absurd. When Mion had said that at the end we were powerless, it made me sort of frustrated. I just wanted to do something. Anything other than waste the days praying for a miracle. That's what made me come here. But that was all. Even if I were to witness her uncle actually torment Satoko, what could I do? Would I actually act like a comic book hero, punch the guy in the face, and take Satoko away from me? And then live together somewhere far away? That was ridiculous. I'm powerless. The cicadas' voices, raised in chorus, sounded like they were scoffing at me. As though they were saying that if I couldn't do anything and wouldn't do anything, then I should go back home. I heard a car approaching, so I got out of its way. The car stopped right behind me, its horn shortly honking once. Annoyed, hadn't I gotten out of their way? I looked behind me. A familiar face was looking at me out the driver's seat's window. Coach. Hello, my bra. How unexpected to meet you all the way out here. Do you live nearby? Me being here wasn't normal. Just as I considered somehow giving him the slip, I noticed Satoko sitting in the passenger seat. Satoko! Satoko got out of the car and began unloading a lot of groceries from the trunk. I happened to run into Coach on my way back from shopping. He said he'd bring me home, so I'd accept his offer. She wouldn't have been able to carry all those groceries on her bike. As the coach spoke, he pulled Satoko's bike from out of the back seat where they put it. The grocery bags were big. There were 4 of them. They all seemed to be packed full and very heavy. Those bags! 7 Smart! Hey, isn't that a little far to go by bicycle? I looked at the bags and saw they were filled to the brim with sake bottles, snacks that you'd eat with sake, and boxes of cigarettes. Their weight was one thing, but their contents were nothing less than luxury items. I made it thanks to Coach. He helped me out. It was a little difficult going up those hills. Satoko gave Coach a smile filled with gratitude, but it was incredibly awkward and even heartrending. Satoko, these groceries aren't for dinner tonight, are they? Of course not. I do not drink sake and I hate snacks. Of course I don't smoke either. He made Satoko go to a distant store by herself on her bike so she could buy dumb shit like this? And what's the uncle doing right now anyway? He must have been working up a good sweat at this very moment if he needed to send Satoko out by herself, right? If not, then how much had Satoko suffered for no reason? I hadn't intended to voice my feelings, but they may have made it onto my face. Coach might have noticed because he clapped me on the shoulder. Just then, one of the windows clattered open. The face of a vulgar man, the very sight of which made me immediately avert my eyes, emerged within it. There were no self-introductions necessary. My gut told me that this was the uncle in question. The first thing out of his mouth should have been words of gratitude for Satoko. I don't want to read this. I'm sorry. I really don't want to. I'm sorry, but you told me to go right away. I really don't. I can't. I don't. Sadako miserably apologized over and over, bowing again and again. She could be perfectly described as a small animal. I had no idea what was happening. Sadako finished shopping for all this heavy stuff that wasn't even for dinner. She only managed to come back because she ran to Coach and he drove her home. If she hadn't been found by him, she'd surely still be all by herself, panting and moaning, pedaling her bicycle up that steep hill. What was with those words? Those horrible, sleazy words that he said to Sadako? In what country's dictionary did it tell him to say such things to a young girl who just finished shopping? My anger, of course, wouldn't reach him. The uncle displayed no interest in me, instead shouting at Coach. Oh, but isn't Dr. Irie? Hello. Why don't you come inside too? We're in the last round, so you can get it right away. 100 yen per 1,000 points, and anything goes. No. I'll pass. Thank you. I just ran to Sadako and gave her a lift. Is all. I'll be leaving now. Nah, come on and play around. You got a lot of money, yeah? I don't even understand what her uncle and Coach were talking about. But I knew one thing for sure. None of what he just said had been to thank Sadako in any way. I don't really... Techa, you're so harsh on her. She looks so sad. No, I'm not. I don't know. I don't want to. They're playing mahjong, so yeah. It looked like it wasn't just her uncle. Some of his friends were over. Hey, wait. What was he? No, what were they doing? Flinging rude words left and right, making Sadako go shopping for your beer? What are they doing?
My uncle's friends came from town. They're playing mahjong. He told me to prepare dinner for them as well.
What the hell? Mahjong? He called his friends over for mahjong? They were too busy playing, so they sent Sadako to buy them a crap load of booze from a faraway store, and the first thing he said to her was how she left the gas on? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? What does that guy think he's doing? Who could get lost in some dumb game of mahjong and send Sadako to buy all this stuff? Even though Coach was listening, he pretended he wasn't. There was a line of heavy-looking shopping bags lined up on the ground next to the trunk. Maibara, you help too, please. You're a boy. You get to carry this heavy one. Coach! You're gonna let this slide? This is completely... Coach pretended that he hadn't heard that violent outburst either. When I thought about it later, his reaction might have been the best thing he could do in that situation. I'll carry 2 of them myself. Come on. Help us carry them, please. The bags were packed to the brim with bottles of sake and bar snacks. They were so heavy and so filthy. So unfair. They weren't just heavy in terms of weight. It made me feel mortified. Nothing could have been heavier than that.
Keiichi, there's no need to push yourself. I'll carry it.
Sadako mistook my butting back, the humiliation as grimacing under the weight, and offered to help. Stupid! Don't underestimate me. Sadako had never looked down on my physical strength in the slightest.
Coach, I'm sorry for you too. It must be heavy.
No, not at all, answered Coach, smiling vaguely, coolly. But I alone knew. Coach was an adult. He just knew how to keep his feelings from showing. There was even more anger than I was feeling burning deep in his eyes. Well, it is heavy. Shit! It wasn't very far to the doorstep of Sadako's house, but the bag squeezed my palms and started leaving red marks. Fury welled up in me. The back of my throat stung, but even if it all came gushing out, it wouldn't solve anything, so just tightly gritting my teeth was as much as I could do.
Really, thank you so much, both of you. You really helped me there.
After we carried them to the back door, Sadako said that was enough. Occasionally we hear the repulsive laughing of her uncle and her friends from within. My insides would seethe. I knew they weren't ridiculing us, and that was why it made me so mad. They made Sadako shop for all this heavy, selfish stuff, and ignored her and laughed amongst themselves as they pleased. It was deeply aggravating. Of course, Coach had to felt the same way, but if he accidentally let his feelings slip into his face, he could only cause Sadako more worry. He knew all that and spoke coolly as if to say he didn't care. Not at all. I'm happy I could be a bit of help for you. If there's anything else I can be help with, please tell me.
Yes, I really am happy you feel that way.
That he feels that way. Those words were sad. Sadako herself was sad and resigned. It could only help her so much. But she was right. No matter how much Coach and I wanted to help Sadako, this is as much as we could do. I felt absolutely ashamed at not having the power to help her any more than this. Burning, boiling emotions were bubbling within me and rising to my throat, trembling on all over. I almost started to cry from my fury. Me too. If there's anything I can do, I'll help you whenever you need. So, hang in there. I wanted to at least give her those trite words, saying I'd help her whenever she wanted.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm happy just that you came all the way here when you didn't need to.
Sadako seemed to have guessed what I was doing in a place like this, when my house was in the opposite direction from my school.
Alright, you should get going. They're drunk right now, so there's no telling what they'll get mad at you for.
She felt guilty getting us involved after we helped her. She wanted to be the only one to suffer this misfortune. That's how it looked, and it hurt. I handed my supermarket bag over to Sadako, and then I noticed on the back of Sadako's hand there was something that looked like a bruise. Hey, Sadako, what the heck's that bruise? I knew as much as anyone else how transparent it sounded. I didn't need to hear it from Sadako to know how much this bruise came to be.
I just slipped and fell on the stairs in a hill a little. Please pay it no mind.
You're lying! Coach nudged me in the back and put his index finger to his mouth to chide me for being so loud.
Really, thank you so much. Until tomorrow, I hope we can see each other at school.
That's not what I'm talking about! I asked you how you got that bruise on your hand! The evening glow finally got to the point where I could see the other concealed oval-shaped bruises, the traces of swelling on her neck, her legs, and other places too.
I fell down the stairs!
The very moment my violent, rampaging emotions were about to burst their way out my throat, I felt my mouth being tightly clamped down on. Coach was pressing down on my mouth from behind, wrapping me around tightly with his hands. Because of that, I couldn't say anything. I could only groan, which I did. That was all I could do. I needed to expel all the magma sitting deep within me, because otherwise I'd surely explode into a million pieces at that very moment. So I groaned. I groaned from my mouth, from my whole body, while heat fell in drops from my eyes. I groaned and groaned. I groaned to the point of exhaustion. I wrung absolutely everything out of myself. Even having lost my voice, I was still wringing it all out. I understand how you feel. I really do, Maibara. Please just endure it for now. Please, I'm asking you, Maibara. Endure it for now? And then what, huh? What would happen to her? To Sadako? Her body, her mind are wounded, and she's made to suffer like this. Can you not even let me howl in vain at it? Is that it, Coach? We're this powerless, so powerless we can't even fucking scream from the bottom of our hearts? The voices of the Higurashi made me calm down. I didn't know how long it had been. Sadako abruptly gave a slight bow.
Thank you very much, Keiichi.
Sadako.
You look a lot like my Nini just now. My real Nini may not be here anymore, but I have another Nini named Keiichi.
Yeah, you got it. I'm your Nini, and when you're in pain, I'll help you no matter what. Your Nini will rescue you for sure. Satoshi, you fucking idiot! If not now, then when? Sadako, she's never felt more pain in her life. If her Nini doesn't save her now, then when will he? Why did you run away? Why did you abandon her? Why did you leave Sadako behind? You don't have any right to call yourself Sadako's Nini! I won't run away.
Huh?
I definitely won't run away. I won't run away and abandon you like Satoshi did. No way! I will not abandon you! Tears trickled down from Satoko's eyes, and then she narrowed her eyes into a smile.
Goodbye, Nini.
Satoko took her right hand and awkwardly waved to me.
I'll be alright. My Nini now helped me so much. So I'll be okay. I'll do my best until tomorrow. I'll be okay. So, for now, today, this is goodbye.
There was no way I could say bye, see you tomorrow. And then from inside the house came a throaty, disgusting voice. I'm not reading that part.
Okay, Nini. Get going already. I'll be fine for now. Hurry.
Let's go, Maibara. Staying any longer than this would be a bother to Satoko.
Coach, Nini's house is a little far away. I'm sorry to ask you this, but could you take him home?
Yes, I'll do that. Coach grabbed me by the collar, and with my strength, I couldn't have imagined him having started dragging me away, and I, unable to oppose him, started getting farther away from Satoko. She waved her hand to us, expression still dark, and disappeared through the back door. Okay. Coach got into the car first and turned on the narrow path and brought the passenger side door around for me. Hold on. I need a break. Okay. I know how you feel so well it hurts. No, I think I understand it even more than you. But right now, just for now, please endure it. She understood exactly how you feel, so please endure it. If you don't, I know already! I'm sorry. Thank you for before. I meekly got into the passenger seat. The car accelerated quietly, and Satoko's house grew further and farther away in the rearview mirror. We made a wide turn, and then I couldn't see her house anymore. Is your house that far away? It's in the other direction from school, isn't it? I didn't bother to reply. I would have been hard-pressed to give an answer as wise as I was at Satoko's house. Coach didn't say any more either. For a while, the two of us were silent. Only the sound of the gravel splaying over the road as we drove. I remember how Rena said things were different from last year. At the time, she had Satoshi with her. Satoshi protected Satoko so that less of the sparks fell onto her. Now, Satoshi isn't here. Yes, that's the unfortunate truth. Coach seemed to understand what I really meant when I said that. It's a terribly sad, cruel story, but there's a limit to our resolve, our efforts, and our assistance. It sounded like an excuse, but he was right. Even if Coach and I wanted to be people Satoko could depend on, that was all. It ended at the front door. No matter how much I shouted that I would be her Nini, no matter how much I shouted that I wouldn't abandon her, and no matter how much Satoko called me Nini, I couldn't do any more than that. Where on earth could Satoshi have gone? Right, Satoshi was another story. Her actual brother Satoshi. He was in a position to protect her far, far better than we ever could. That was the cold, sad truth of the massive gulf between Satoshi and us. I wonder what he's been doing lately. Satoshi left home. I didn't know why. Maybe it's because of Oyashiro's curse, or he disappeared or something. In any case, he wasn't beside Satoko now. At the time Satoko needed him to protect her most, he wasn't here. Why isn't he here? Satoko needs him more than ever! A lot of people talk about Oyashiro's curse, but the only thing I can say is that he ran away. One of my friends said that one day he just never came back. He ran away without even leaving so much as a note for his sister? Satoshi had been doing part-time jobs a lot. At the time, Satoko really wanted this huge stuffed animal. It ended up costing a lot, so he was doing all sorts of part-time jobs to afford it. He felt so strongly about it. Everyone was whispering about how he at least wanted to get his sister a nice birthday present, since she was being made to live such a pitiful life with her uncle and his wife. In the end, he didn't use his savings for a birthday present for Satoko. Satoshi disappeared. The police looked long and hard, They found out that Satoshi had withdrawn all his savings himself on the day he left. After checking all over, they began to think that maybe he used his savings to go to Tokyo. Tokyo? For what? Again, all I can say is that he ran away. He saved up all that money so he could run away? He was that selfish? But how could he just leave Sadako behind? If he was gonna run away anyway, he should have brought Sadako with him! Even now, Coach is still calm. He wasn't trying to pour any oil on the fire of my anger at all. He just waited until my anger naturally subsided. After listening to the gravel being pushed under the wheels for a little while, Coach spoke abruptly. Please understand, Sadako left behind arrived at the same conclusion. I'm a burden on my brother, and that's why he abandoned me. He didn't take her with him when he left. How terrible must Sadako have felt, being betrayed by the brother she loved so much. But Sadako is a very strong person. Of course she had the support of her close friends too, but that was how she regained her smile. I recalled how Sadako had spoken of Satoshi so brightly when I was eating dinner with her and Rika a few days ago. At the time, I didn't think any more of it than how pleasant their sibling love had been. But now that I did think about it, I realized it was like she was peering into the distance from the top of a pile of tragic perseverance. She said Satoshi will come back for sure, and that when he did, she wanted him to see how she was no longer a burden. Sadako isn't a burden! She's way better at day-to-day living than me, and she can pretty much do anything. I mean, she might fall behind Rena or Rika in certain aspects, but she's way more of an adult than most people. That's the result of having worked so hard since she didn't know when Satoshi would come home. Her efforts are so painful. She lived with Rika, while Rika taught her how to handle everything flawlessly. All that she could welcome back Satoshi at any time, so she could show him she wasn't ashamed. So, when is Satoshi going to come back? I asked Coach, but he knew he wouldn't be able to answer. In any case, Satoshi ran away. He left Sadako and ran away from Hinamizawa. Somebody said that when you leave Hinamizawa and run away, Oyashiro's curse gets you, right? That made sense. Satoshi running away and his disappearance. That would obviously mean people thought it was the curse, right? And they could smile, as though it were his own fault, as though he got what he deserved. Hey, Oyashiro, whoever you are, Satoshi didn't vanish because he ran away. You demoned away him with your curse, didn't you? That's not what happened, and I couldn't forgive him. When did Satoshi run away? The night of the Watanagashi festival last year. That is when their aunt was killed by the deviant. It was a few days after that, on Sadako's birthday. Sadako's birthday! I slammed my hands on the dashboard in front of me with all my might. Satoshi, of all the days he could have chosen to run away! Your aunt just died a few days before, didn't she? All your days of suffering were about to end, weren't they? You were just about to start thinking about a new life, weren't you? It's wrong to be happy about someone dying, but for Sadako and her brother, her birthday had come at a critical turning point. Their mean uncle had fled town, the siblings would be left alone. They should have been able to be happy about that, on Sadako's birthday. Sadako was probably waiting for her brother to return the whole time, waiting for her brother to return, and when he never did, waiting with bated breath for her brother to return, her hopes and dreams of a new life to come growing even larger. No matter how long she waited, he didn't come back. He didn't even contact her. Sadako trembling in anticipation of a great present, just when she would have to face the cold, terrible truth. Satoshi, you fucking idiot! I could feel my blood rising to my head in my anger at Satoshi. I was frustrated. I was aggravated. I couldn't forgive him. Sadako still respected and adored her brother, and yet he so heartlessly betrayed her. Such a person wouldn't just come back, now when he was most needed. Yes, no one would protect her, not even her real brother Satoshi. So when she started to see you as her Nini, I was happy. Huh? I pray for Sadako's happiness as well, but I have a position in society and a job to do every day. I have a little time that I can devote to Sadako. But you're different. You go to school with her, and you're closer to her and Satoshi in age. I know you think you can only do so much, but you're in a position where you can give Sadako a hand much better than I can. So I want you to help her enough for the both of us. That's what I wish for. But that's... Coach, you could... Of course, with my job skills, there are plenty of things only I can help her with. But in the same way, there are only things that you can do for her. What I want to say is, we should both perform in every way we can. Was that a little too complicated? Coach added that, but I shook my head in response. When I heard him say he had job skills, it reminded me he was an adult in a different position from all of us. Maybe I should ask him about it. Oh, Coach, do you know a lot about laws? No, I know even less than the average person. Why? I thought back to when I argued with Mion and the others about Sadako. Our children's argument had only left us with the conclusion that we had to wait and see. What would an adult think? What was it? The child welfare law? As an emergency measure to secure the safety of a juvenile, they can force him or her to separate from the parents. They can do that? So then we can rescue Sadako from her uncle right away! Sadako might not want that. Unless the person being abused wants shelter anyway, it doesn't go that far. Sadako doesn't want it? Why? The coach didn't answer me. I don't know why he didn't. It was clear as day that Sadako's uncle was being violent and treating her like a slave, so then why? I clamped down on my frenzied emotions. I waited intently for Coach to answer. But he never did. It wasn't like he wasn't pretending he hadn't heard me. But if I had to say, it was more like he wanted to explain but couldn't put it into the right words. Sadako probably thinks of this abuse as a trial. A trial? This isn't some weird religion we're talking about! You might know this, but Satoshi always looked out for Sadako. She always relied on him, almost as though she was utterly dependent on him. I know for a while that Satoshi had always protected Sadako from their aunt and uncle, but that was his duty as an older brother, not something to worry about. I think that may have traumatized her. Maybe she figured that depending so heavily on her brother had made him hate her. And for Sadako, the current situation was a retelling of the story of a little over a year ago. But this time, Satoshi wasn't here. So I believe that now, she thinks something like this. She wants to overcome this trial by herself without relying on anybody else. And if she doesn't grow strong, then Satoshi will never return. Now that you mentioned it, Sadako had never said a word about how hard it had been before. I figured she was being threatened not to talk about it, but I talked with everyone and we were wondering if we should report it to the Child Consolation Center. I have heard that a social worker was visiting Sadako last year. Yes. In the end, they decided to wait and see, and we thought maybe that made her get tormented even more. That was apparently Sadako reported it herself, and as a result the abuse worsened, but it was just kept out of sight. She was under even more torment, and the burden on Satoshi for protecting her rose considerably. Huh? Good Sadako. She wouldn't be thinking it's her own fault for reporting it, would she? Coach nodded quietly. Sadako would probably either hate it if you suggested reporting the abuse or feign courage and say you didn't need to. If you reported it in secret, she'd probably insist to the social worker that she wasn't being abused. Sadako always acts tough and doesn't readily admit defeat, so I could imagine that easily. And there are strict limitations on this emergency measure. The Child Consolation Center would need permission both from the court and from the concerned party. If the abuse was known to the public, they could forcibly shelter her, even if she denied it. For Sadako, that would probably mean losing. This isn't about winning or losing! It's real life! Sadako, she's... Back on topic. After they placed her under their protection, she'd be sent to a child care institution or the like, and she would basically be living there. So it would mean moving away. And with the change in residence would come a change in schools, too. That... changing schools, it has to be done. If that's what it will take for her to be safe. Sadako understands all those things. All the more reason for her not to want it. Why? Because Sadako's reason for living is to wait at that house for Satoshi to return. She was a husk, an empty shell after being abandoned by her brother. Had she found her reason to live? Try looking at it from Satoko's point of view rather than your own. I felt like he was trying to confuse me with that hard-to-understand roundabout way of talking so unique to adults. The point was, I couldn't do anything about Satoko wanting to stay in that house, and that I should watch until she gives in. In the end, no matter what I said, Coach himself was saying to wait and see. I don't understand. What? If I feel that Satoko's really in danger, I will report it without asking anyone's opinion. She might not be happy with the result, and she might hate me for it. But I believe that'll ultimately be what brings Satoko happiness. Coach turned to me and gazed fixedly into my eyes. It was written all over his face. He was shocked. And what such a young kid had said. Why? Why would you go that far? Coach. No. Rather normal adults might not have understood, so I taught him the creed and the values I believed in. Satoko's my friend, and I'm Satoko's Nini. Isn't that enough of a reason? I stared at him with a will strong and unbreakable as steel, as his eyes betrayed a tiny bit of unrest. No, of course that's enough. We were silent for a little while, and then finally, Coach said only that. Didn't we make a promise? I'm sorry, what? That we weren't ever going to let Satoko cry. We made a vow on that day of the barbecue party. I didn't think about it hard at all, but Coach and I still made a promise. And we would never ever let Satoko cry. Coach gave a dry grin of regret, immediately apologizing for not remembering. One way or another, when he grinned like that, it made me think his enthusiasm for seeing Satoko was a tiny bit smaller than mine. He lightly hit the brakes, making a skidding noise, and leaned forward. Could that be your house there? Oh, right. Maibara would live at the Maibara residence, wouldn't he? Before I knew it, we were almost to my house. Okay, give me a moment, okay? Okay. I'm sorry, it could be worse, you know? Alright, so let's save and load. Okay. Alright, let's check out the new tips. December 1st, 1981. Prefecture Juvenile Welfare Division report. Do not view, do not duplicate. Case 31, November 20th. Satoko, years old. Hojo Satoko, residence Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone. Consultation circumstances. Anonymous telephone SOS of child abuse. Abuse situation. Anonymous claims that a female child is suffering physical abuse by adopted parents, her guardians. Family structure, marks abusers. Adopted father, adopted mother, older brother, child in question. Note, in June 1980, the child's parents died in an accident. She was given to her uncle on her father's side, her father's younger brother. Child Consultation Center's response. On the day of the anonymous telephone consultation, the center called the child's school and asked of her situation. The next day, the welfare officer on duty visited the child's home and heard what they had to say. Both adopted parents agreed to the center's coaching, contacted Anti-Abuse Network in the city. As part of the suggested coaching, a district welfare officer in the area began visiting for coaching at fixed intervals. The scrawled note below is stapled to the report. Related information from the former official Mr. W. referred to 1977 documents D23 number 44, asks Chief Investigator F from the city's education consultation offices. He's well informed about it. Okay. If you didn't know, Ryukishi apparently had some kind of government position, maybe as a social worker, I forget, so. Yeah, if you want to know, that's how he knows all these things. Of course, I mean, there's things that Keiichi, that he writes really well. There are certain things that aren't not so good, but yeah. Okay. I went home and washed the day's sweat off in the shower. Normally, I could reset everything by taking a shower and forgetting all the bad things. But that didn't happen today. I got out of the shower to find... okay, yeah, whatever. Normally I didn't stop to think about it, but today I felt happy at my mother's consideration. At the same time, however, it made me realize how much Sadako must be suffering. At the very moment, I was appreciating this gentle kindness. Sadako might be being bruised by her uncle's cruel words. I went up to the second floor and shut myself in my bedroom. And facing my desk, I folded my arms. My topic of thought, of course, was Sadako. We thought if we could just get a public agency to intervene in the right way, the problem would be solved. But what Coach said, I didn't think it would be so easy. Sadako was obstinate, and she would stubbornly deny the abuse and try to endure it. And that was an act of atonement towards Satoshi, who had protected her before and then run away. As long as she thought that way, the situation wouldn't be so simple. But earlier, before Coach and I made a clear declaration. If I thought Sadako was in danger, then I would do what I had to do. In the end, that meant I was just going to wait and see too. Nevertheless, I thought I'd drawn a clearer line than Coach or my friends had. If the time came, I would report it, over the phone. Given Sadako's personality, she might criticize me if she found out, but I believe it was ultimately the best decision. Wait, Maibara Keiichi. Would it really be all that took for the problem to end? Say I reported it to the public agency, like the Child Consolation Center. What if they stuck to their wait-and-see attitude like last year again? Last year they decided to do just that, and the situation improved temporarily, but then the aunt, thinking herself a laughingstock, increased her tormenting in secret. In the end, things became more underhanded than ever before. This year it was her uncle. I had just seen him for the first time today, but the man seemed much more direct, much more violent than the word underhanded could imply. He wasn't like their aunt, no, not that subtle. He was more direct. He might also assault her with punches and kicks that could easily be discerned from the bruises and such I saw on Sadako's bodies. Shit! You're too naive, Maibara Keiichi! However heroic it may seem to report that was happening, if it doesn't save her, then it doesn't mean anything! Reporting things to the public agency was only one option, and leaving everything to them would be dangerous. We need something more to guarantee Sadako's safety. I scratched madly at my head thinking, and it tilted it back, wanting at least a bit of calm. The memories of angry arguing with my friends today came to mind. I was embarrassed. I hadn't realized it until Rena said something. She was right. My house is big. Compared to all the houses with the straw-thatched roofs in Hinamizawa, it really was big. We did actually have empty rooms. I never thought we were affluent, but also we were never poor. I just didn't want to admit it because people would think I was arrogant. But maybe my family really is wealthy. We had a few more rooms we could lend to Sadako. The guest rooms are only in use when people related to my dad's job come and stay every once in a while. Plus, we cleaned up a few of the rooms. My dad uses for storage. It could work for her as well. As for food expenses, that might have been a more serious problem than a kid like me could imagine. Lunch every day would be manageable. All of our friends could just bring a little bit more for the lunch they usually did. With everyone pecking at everybody else's food anyway, it would be more manageable. For breakfast and dinner, though, that would have to be up to Mom. I need to convince her to lend Sadako more than just a room. Of course, I don't even think convincing her of that would be easy. About how much it would cost for one person to eat. How many tens of thousands of yen per month? They couldn't complain about it if I shouldered that, could they? I only had 10 or 20,000 yen in savings, but it was something. I actually had even more thanks to New Year's gifts and such, but my parents had taken all of that and put it into a fixed time deposit. If I could get access to that, it should add up to a lot of money. If I got that far, Mio and Rena wouldn't need to share some of the burden. Of course that didn't seem like it would work. Rena got mad at me, didn't she? About how I shouldn't just shove responsibility onto others. I'd have to ask for help. Even so, I'd basically be saving her myself. I'd fall through on it. Oh, but it wouldn't only be food expenses. There'd be a lot of other things that you couldn't do without, like baths and laundry. My mother was awfully methodical and strict about cutting out inefficiencies, and for once, that was troublesome. She might even make a reference to the money it would cost for the detergent Sadako would use for her own clothes. I couldn't think about only food expenses. I needed more money. Hey, wait, Maibara Keiichi. Since when was all this about money? Even if you could afford it, you need your parents' permission first. They'd be looking after a young girl for a really long time. What would I say to even to persuade them? Just calm down a bit, Maibara Keiichi, and you'll realize right away you can't. Even if you ask them seriously, they would tell you to call the police. Even if you manage to gain their empathy, why would the Maibara family have to shoulder all the burden by itself? That's what would happen. That was it. It was very sad and frustrating. But no matter how much I wanted to help, my resolution alone couldn't save anything. Our kids, are they really this powerless? I felt frustrated. I believed my feelings were stronger than anyone else's. I even thought they were stronger than Coach's, and yet... Yep, it really is unfair. Like, kids, they have, like, all this free time, but... Like, when it comes to situations where there's just things that are just... They're just freaking unescapable. Yeah. Anyway, at that point, there were 2 knocks at my door and Mom poked her head inside. Give me a moment. Okay. Okay. Were you awake? I've been calling you for dinner for a while. Oh, yeah, I'm coming. As someone financially dependent on his parents, I shouldn't say this, but I just sat around doing nothing and food suddenly appeared. It felt so natural to me that I'd shamelessly thought of it as a responsibility of the parents who gave birth to me. When I realized that natural thing was actually a privilege, I came to realize just how hard it was to grant that privilege to others. Even the boring meal in front of me, no better than it ever was, had more meaning than that tonight. There was food for 3 on the table right now, for Dad, for Mom, and for me. I couldn't imagine how hard it'd be to add another place at the table. Think, Maibara Keiichi. If it was hard to make food for 4, then just think about how 4 people could eat food made for 3. Oh, I changed around the way I thought, and with that I began to consider an unthinkably bold plan. That's right, I didn't need to get my parents' permission. She could just live here in secret. I got upset when I found out a while ago, but if I remember right, if you climbed out the window, then shimmied down the first floor roof or gutter, you could go in and out of the house directly from my room. Satoko's physical ability far surpassed my own, so it'd be even easier for her. I haven't even thought about it, but her living here secretly was actually a necessity. I'd only ever had to bring Satoko to my house, and when the public agency said they would wait and see, in other words, if Satoko's uncle continued to be her guardian. If, in such a situation, word got out that she was here, her uncle would barge in and drag Satoko back with him. Her uncle was her rightful guardian, so my parents would have to hand her over without an argument, no doubt. So I needed to keep it a secret that she was living here. If it needs to be secret, then having my parents' help would mean a lot, but I gotta deceive your allies first, like they always say. Okay. Persuading my parents was an unrealistic proposition, so I searched for a way to have her live here in secret. When I was around, she would have to be really quiet in my room on the 2nd floor. The issue was the daytime. If she was hiding from her uncle, then she shouldn't go to school. It might be lonely, but not going would be the better option. I could easily teach Satoko the stuff she learns in her grade. Actually, during school, I mostly help all the younger kids out rather than studying my own stuff. During the day, I would need to go to school and I wouldn't be at home. My parents respected my privacy now that I was this age, so they wouldn't go snooping in my room while I was gone. I think. If she holed herself up in my room, it would be okay, right? If my parents did come, thanks to where the 2nd floor was, she could hear their approach from the sound of them coming up the stairs. There'd be a little time before they got all the way up, I estimated a few seconds, that she'd be able to hide herself in the closet. Wait, Keiichi. Something doesn't make sense. If she can't go to school, then what would she do for lunch? Calm down already. I could just leave her my own lunch, couldn't I? I should just go to school without lunch and get everybody else to split theirs with me. Okay, that's good. No more contradictions or oversights, right? Oh, breakfast and dinner. I could somehow get her to go without breakfast. I can go with 2 meals a day when I sleep in on Sundays, after all. Every night I'd pretend as though I had a bigger appetite and ask for a bigger helping, and then I could somehow give part of that to Sadako. As a test, I stood up from my seat for my plate of fish in my hands. What's wrong, Keiji? Sit down and eat your food. Well, I'm kind of not in a good mood. Could I eat up in my room? You'll make a mess. Eat dinner at the dinner table. Sorry. Hey, wait. I only tried to take one plate of fish, and they ganged up on me? In reality, it was impossible for me to smuggle food away without my parents knowing about it. But it must have been worth taking the time to think about. There must be some trick, some method to avoid them realizing. Even if I can't think of one today, I might think of one tomorrow. My appetite was rapidly fading, so I finished early and went back to my room. I went back there and tried to think of it from Sadako's point of view. For example, let's say my parents were coming up to the stairs right now and I've got to hide. I opened the closet. It didn't open quietly. Hey, wait. Didn't it always open real smooth and quiet? Why was it suddenly doing this now? Oops. What is this, a faulty house? Had I already gotten old or something, or was I just not putting enough work into it? Could I just plaster it with wax? The sound itself may have been soft, but it left me uneasy as to whether my parents would detect it happening when they climbed up the stairs. But this was an easy problem. I could do something about it. I just had to fix it up a little so it wouldn't make noise anymore. For now, I'd closed myself in the closet as I thought I'd successfully hid. I basically always left my futon out on the floor. I couldn't think of any reason my parents would want to go in my closet. Even so, there might be some reason they would. I might need to construct some sort of camouflage so she wouldn't be noticed even if they did open it. But the more she worried about that, the less time she'd have to actually hide, meaning it would more likely they'd hear a noise. And then I'd suddenly have to go to the bathroom. The bathroom! The need to use the toilet. It's so obvious and yet such a fatal flaw. The only bathroom was on the first floor. It'd be absolutely impossible for her to use it without my family realizing. I might need to set up a portable toilet, like a chamber pot, I guess. Sadako would hate it, so she could go in my room. But the stench would be pretty terrible. Anyone sensitive would probably notice the smell without even coming into the room. The bath was okay, though. She could just take a bath when my parents were out. But I couldn't do anything about a toilet. When her stomach started to hurt, if my parents were lazing around downstairs, she'd be in trouble. It was then I noticed that I'd been clawing at my head with both hands. I sat down in the dark closet with my knees against my chest. I buried my face in them and tore at my hair. The more I thought about it, the more contradictions popped up. The more I thought, the more things failed. The more I worried, the more I was reminded of how little power I actually had. My back started to hurt from staying in a cramped place for so long. But if I was to shelter Sadako, I'd need to force her to feel this pain. To live in such a dark, narrow, suffocating place forever. But it'd still be better than being abused by her uncle. Or so I wanted to think. Well, for me, personally, yes. I mean, I'm pretty small, so it's not like being like Keiji, but I actually would prefer that over being yelled at all the time. Yes, I used to sleep in a dark little closet in my college years. It got so hard to breathe, so I gave in and crawled out of the closet. I looked at the clock, and to my surprise, it was 3:30 in the morning. It felt like so little time, but it was so unbelievably long. When I realized that, I was slammed with a terrible urge to sleep as if time had only just caught up with me. I didn't have enough strength to fight it, and I fell flat onto my futon. Shit, I can't just go to sleep like this. If I waste any time, that would mean I'm taking the same wait-and-see attitude that Mio and the coach and everybody else did. I needed to keep worrying about how to rescue Sadako for even a minute or even a second longer than everyone else. Isn't there a better way? Isn't there a better way? That one phrase I spoke to myself swirled around my head in a spiral and steadily took over my entire mind. From my very last moment of consciousness, I thought, there are a lot of blind spots that I'd considered tonight, but I absolutely wasn't wrong for having those ideas. Tomorrow I would suggest this bold plan to the others. Mio might be able to help somehow, and Rena was really sharp, so she might have a good suggestion. And above all, we need to rescue Sadako once again, with everyone helping out. I felt pathetic for letting myself fall asleep. I'm sorry, Sadako. I mean, would it really do that good that mentally? I wouldn't say that it would. Well, I don't know. Plus, it would be unbearable to stay in a dark space all the time, too. That would not be fun. And if I was Sadako, yeah, same. Yeah, she can't just stay in a dark space all the time. But that was something that I sometimes did. And stuff. I mean, if she wanted to somehow sleep all the time, but come on. The ceiling blurred into view. It was hot. There was a thin layer of moist sweat on me. The voices of the cicadas permeating my room were somehow grating to my head. What? Today's not Sunday, is it? I remembered today was a weekday and quickly brought myself up to consciousness. And then I finally leaped out of bed. The clock read a little before 10. I was totally late. When I wandered downstairs, my mom would get mad at me. There's nothing I could do, though. After reviewing the schedule for the school day for a moment, I suitably rearranged the stuff in my bag. I hurried and got dressed and went down the stairs. There was no sign of my parents anywhere. Maybe they went out somewhere together. So that's how it was. My mother had probably woken me up once this morning, but I fell back to sleep without remembering it. My parents thinking I had gone to school left. Something like that probably happened. I went to the front door and, as expected, it was locked. Look, I was right. It was further evidence of my speculation being correct. When I realized my parents weren't here, I suddenly felt like I had a rush to get to school. Feel less like. There was one portion of breakfast left in the dining room, probably mine. The milk they poured in had gone warm since long ago. I realized how hard it would be to sneak in food for Sadako. Yesterday I had cried. While thinking back on it, food wasn't the only issue in the regard. I wasn't in a position where I could bargain for Sadako by myself anyway. It's such a heavy thing to just save a single person. I'd seen this on TV and in comics all the time, those feel-good words about how you'll save your friends for sure and such. Was that why I ran my mouth like that, swearing to save her because I wanted to feel good about it? No, that absolutely wasn't true, because the fact that I couldn't save her, because I didn't want to think like an adult, like I couldn't do anything but watch. Had Sadako gone to school today? I immediately realized that was a meaningless question. Whether or not she did, it wouldn't be a change in the environment she'd been placed in. If I couldn't save her and no one else could either, then we could only pray for a miracle. Are we so powerless? With a vague goal of getting to school in mind, I sluggishly put on my shoes and stumbled out the front door. I had only overslept by 2 or 3 hours, but the sunlight and air felt completely different from how they usually were in the morning. Well, of course they did. Once 10 o'clock came around, you could barely call it morning anymore. I didn't feel like walking the same old route to school. I needed to ultimately end up there, but it was like I didn't want to choose the shortest route, the most proactive one to get to school. Put in a more positive light, maybe I wanted time to walk by myself and think. I had to go to school, partly to make sure Sadako was safe, but I hadn't come up with any plans yet. Nothing since last night. So the path I took from my house was in the complete opposite direction. So we're gonna quick save. Alright. Alright. Cutting it short today. Bye.